Good evening. This is Pat Walker at MissionWinners.com. And I was talking with Owen, and he had a great idea. He said, I think it's wonderful we type answers to questions. Periodically, I think it's good to make a video with it. And so that's what I'm doing right here. One of our VIP members, Jeff, asked a good question. And here's the question. He says this, Pat, 4 times a year I hear people talking about earnings season. Can you explain what earnings season really is and how long it lasts? And that is really a good question. Now, a lot of you can say, we know that. I have to share something with all of you. These are all great questions that need to be asked. So I'm glad you're asking. Keep asking questions, people. It's very important. 4 times a year, companies report their earnings. Publicly traded companies report their earnings. You can say, what about privately held companies? They may also, but what we're looking at are the publicly traded companies because that's the playground that we're associated with. They're required to report earnings. It comes out, and again, it's quarterly. It's a range of time that starts normally right around the first week of the year, and it goes all the way through, basically, to tell you the truth, all the way into like the first week of February. 4 to 5 weeks of earnings reports. These are companies, again, we're talking publicly traded companies, that come out and they have to report what their earnings were for the quarter, any accounting changes or any accounting impacts on their earnings, their revenues for the quarter. Everything needs to be broken down. It has to be completely exposed, nothing hidden, so it helps investors have an understanding of how well a company or how poorly a company is doing. And so that's what earnings season is. It lasts basically, as I said, it's quarterly. It lasts about 5 to 6 weeks on average. There are periods of time where a bunch of the bank stocks report. There's a period of time when a bunch of the consumer stocks report. There are periods of time when a lot of the technology stocks report, semiconductors, etc. So that's what earnings season is. You can say, why is it so important? I'll tell you why. If a company comes out with earnings and it disappoints Wall Street investors, the stock can plummet in price. At the same time, it can come out with good earnings or have a good earnings story and gap up in price. Years ago, it was fairly easy to predict, given the recent stock price movement, what was going to happen with earnings. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way anymore. There's not the rhyme and rhythm and reason that there used to be. So the moral of the story is this: be extremely careful with earnings season. I have one time I held a decent amount of shares of MasterCard through earnings. No, it was IBM. I take it back. It was IBM, and gave back low 5 figures on it. So I'm just telling you, please be careful with earnings reports. You could say, well, Pat, what should I do? You could be flat the stock, not own it. The other thing you could do is do options instead of the stock. The risk with that is if you do options, if the report is bad, you could lose your entire options premium. The plus to it is this: your risk is only premium paid. That's the most you can lose. You can't lose more than that. So just another variable to take into consideration. But I also got to tell you, there's a whole bunch of variables to consider with options pricing too. So that's another story in another video. That's what earnings season is. It's coming up right now. Lasts about 5 to 6 weeks. Know those earnings dates, please. I'm going to try to keep you informed also. But again, don't just depend on me. You can go on a couple of different free sites and get the earnings dates. Just know when there are. Oh, by the way, this is very important. It's not just good enough to know the earnings date. The earnings date could be, I'll pick a date, January 21st. January 21st. But you need to know when the earnings are coming out. Are they coming out before the open? Are they coming out during the market day? or are they coming out after the close? If you sit there and say, well, they come out the 21st, I'm long the stock, I'll just sell it 5 minutes before the close, and you come to find out that that company's reporting earnings before the open, well, guess what? You could just really hurt yourself. So these are things that we need to be aware of. Jeff, great question, sir. Thank you for asking, and I hope this helps.